Greetings and salutations, everyone. It is the Garlic Bread Warlord, Nick Alifi. I am joined at the Brewhouse Cafe, as we are most Mondays, not every Monday, as we have seen recently because of holidays and whatnot. And
holidays are over. We're good.
Holidays are over. We're good.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah,
yes, there is an official whatnot designation on the calendar.
That is correct. The whatnot. You have to pitch in a little extra cash, though, and get the right calendar to make sure you get the whatnot feature on there. But
I was about to say, we're the right whatnot.
Hey, of course. But the dulcet tones you are hearing, my friends, are from those of one Mr. John Nelson.
Check.
And Jason Longshore.
No, it's not me.
No, that's not you. And I am joined by my esteemed colleague, the one Mr. Jackie Fresh, who is elected to join us here this evening. If you are one of Jackie Fresh's teachers, please excuse any errors on homework this evening. He had to join us. It's one of those things. Had to happen. But we are up here at the Brewhouse Cafe where we have wonderful soccer talk for you until 8 p.m. Is that what we're going with, 8 p.m.?
Ish.
Yeah, around 8 p.m. We also have wonderful scarves. Do we still have scarves?
We do.
We have scarves. For $20, you can get one of the Holding Midfielders Appreciation Society scarves.
Check.
You should get one of those. And maybe something that Jason's wearing right now. What do we got?
That's special.
That's special. Ooh. If you want to see something special, come up here to the Brewhouse as well, where they have 9,474 televisions.
See, they've gained 62 TVs since the last time they were here.
They keep adding televisions. We're talking about the dedicated power system that they've put in here just to make sure that it happens. They have, and you can see that Sakib has added the fireplaces right
nice
nearby
too.
as well.
The functioning fireplaces.
That's right.
Fireside chat with Nick
The
Alifi.
fireside chat of soccer. Guys, what are we getting into tonight?
Hey, you're driving this thing. You call it.
Do we go ahead and start with our usual topic, Mondays with Racism?
I hate that it's a regular segment,
but
it is. It's a regular segment because it has to be, sadly.
It is.
Because there's a lot of stupid people out there.
Stupid, then they have to be exposed for such.
Yes.
Yep.
So lead us into Mondays with Racism, Nick.
All right. So we're going to start off with in Italy, which is going to shock everyone, I know.
Yeah.
But what? I know it's
a Monday. It's Mondays with Racism, so it's Italy.
Oh, no, we've had some in other countries too.
See, there we go. So it's unfortunately it is spreading like a mutant rampaging virus.
Yes.
And so we have to talk about it. We have to cover it. So you have Brescia and Lazio was yesterday. Lazio won 2-1. Brescia ended up with a red card, which I thought was deserved. But if you watch the game, there was a pause in the action. And the match announcers discussed it as Balotelli yelling at the official because of the quote-unquote challenges he was receiving.
Yeah.
That's not accurate.
No.
Now, one thing about that, we don't know if the commentators were actually there.
That's correct.
So I can understand being a little hesitant.
Yes.
Without knowing for sure.
So listening to the broadcast, I counted at least 3 times that I thought I heard monkey noises. Mm-hmm. At minimum, it was 3 times. And that is, that's disgusting and abhorrent. And at some point, Balotelli went to the match official and complained about it. And that's when the match officials, who, again, we don't know if they were on site. We don't know if they were getting any sort of feed from the Italian side on what was happening. They claimed it was about the challenges that Balotelli was receiving.
Right.
And they went to a highlight clip of Balotelli getting tackled left, right, and center. But when you saw Simeone Inzaghi, he was saying, he was looking at the official with the stoppage, and he was going, tifosi, meaning like, hey, are you talking about the fans? The tifosi are the fans of the ultras down at the end.
Okay.
And so Inzaghi left in their general direction, and they cut the camera away. But from what we understand, the Lazio ultras who had made the trip to Brescia were making numerous racist chants and comments toward Balotelli. So that is this Sunday's report of racism, Mondays with Racism. But it's something where it's not stopping, guys, and it seems to be spreading, and it seems to be going all over the place. And it's sad that we have to read lips in Italian to realize, oh, wait, no, it's not a reckless challenge, that it's actually, a manager having to say, oh, what, let me go tell my fans to be quiet, and here we are.
But it's being talked about.
It's being talked about.
And that's maybe the biggest difference today than previously is I think these things were going on before, but they weren't discussed in this way.
Right.
Now they are. Now you can't hide. Now
No.
that spotlight, whether it's a TV camera, whether it's a closed-circuit camera in a stadium, you're going to get found out, and you're going to get arrested like we've seen quite a few people. You're going to get banned like we've seen quite a few people.
It is. Yeah, and see, Sakib comes over, and automatically he's like,
he knows the segment.
Mondays with racism. Yeah. There we go. And that's the hope, is that Syria starts doing what England is doing, which is where if you get busted for racist commentary, then you're getting arrested. You're getting hauled out of the stadium. And I get it that the free speech people come bombing in timelines and say, well, what do you know? Look, I'm sorry. I have no problem with the fact that in England they haul people off and arrest them for it and fine them out, though, whatever. I have no problems with that. And I have no problems that they get booted and they get banned for life. I have zero problems with any of that, and I'm hoping that Italy starts walking the walk that they put out there before. They say, hey, look, we're going to change our program. We're going to start booting people out. We're going to start, bringing in local police to start handling some of this stuff. I want to see what happens with this, because it was concerning to me that because previously, Jason, here's the thing. No, we don't know if the announcers were live there. We don't know. But previously, when they've had other incidents with this, the announcers have said in-game, this stuff is happening right now, and it's terrible. They've called it out. And if I can sit there at home and hear at least 3 times, hearing the monkey chants and all that, it just made me a little concerned, like, why is this not being talked about? Why is this not being addressed? I don't know. Am I off base with any of this?
No, you're not. I mean, it's tough when you're not there because you're not capturing everything in your ears or with your eyes if you're the commentator.
Yep.
And we don't know what kind of help they were getting from producers. We don't know if the producers caught it. We don't know if the producers could read lips in Italian, read lips in Italian. We don't know if that was possible either. So it's tough to put it on the announcers. I think it should have been something that if you're a producer there, if you're a commentator and you're not there, and you start to see this happen and you're wondering what's going on, you have to be on social media, you have to be looking on Twitter, and you have to make sure you get to the bottom of it.
There has to be vigilance from the crew, regardless of where you are. If you're on site or if you're doing it remotely, you have to be cognizant of how things are three-dimensionally these days when it comes to events that can happen like this.
Because if I'm the commentator in that case and I'm not sure what's going on, I don't know, I'm being fed information in my ear or I'm seeing things that I don't know what's happening, I would at least know the history of what's happened with Balotelli and would be able to say, well, wait a minute, I'm not sure what it is. I don't want to go out there on that limb yet, but I'm going to be hitting the callback button and telling my producer, hey, find out what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, search Twitter. Make sure I know what's happening here. I want to get this right.
Calling games remotely is really, it is an acquired skill, and it takes a lot to figure out how to call games remotely, do it well, do it correctly. But when you have this added dimension of subplot, subtext, and everything that's going on, it is something that these days you have to be more cognizant about and understand your time and your place as you're calling an event.
Mm-hmm. And see, that's something I have never called a game remotely. Like in a big-time real situation, I have never done that. So, obviously, that's something that I can't speak to. But I will say that Balotelli had a strike in this game that was absolutely glorious. I mean, off balance, body going in the opposite direction, put the foot just cleanly on the ball, and put the ball exactly where the goalkeeper could not get it. I mean, it was a wonderful strike from him. And it really showed the class, the soccer playing class that the man has.
Come to MLS, Mario.
Come to MLS.
That was going to be my next question. Should he just wind it up and end up being a part of Toronto FC or something like that?
Not Toronto, because it makes no sense. Not pairing him with Jose Altidore. You got to go to a place where it's going to make sense for him.
Montreal?
Yeah, Montreal would be one that would make a lot of sense. I think Thierry Henry would be a good person for Mario to be around at this point.
Right.
I think Guillermo Barros Escaloto in Los Angeles would be another one because they need a number 9. And if you put Balotelli in that Galaxy team, I think you're going to be in a really good spot. There's teams that could use him. I think there's teams that are willing to spend the money.
Right.
There's teams that are being linked to spending that kind of money. Brescia's president has basically said, like, yeah, come get him.
Yeah.
We're cool with that, which is ridiculous, but yes.
Well, they're a newly promoted team, and they're in the relegation zone now. And there's going to be, either way, whether they stay up or not, even though I think they just re-upped Sandro Tonali's contract, that's only so they can get a fatter transfer fee for him.
Right.
He's going to be gone.
Yeah.
So Tonali's going to be gone. Balotelli's going to be gone. You could get Balotelli for next to nothing to get him out of there. And the issue with Balotelli, and I've told people this before, I'm going to stick with it, is that you're talking about a guy who was adopted, 1. 2, he's faced racism every step of the way in his life. So he leaves Serie A. Right? Mm-hmm. But then you're away from home. You're away from your family. You're away from all cultural connections. So he's sort of a man without a country because even when he represents the Azzurri, you're still getting people who say, well, and I'm going to put on the accent here, like, well, he's not Italian enough for me. Well, I know, I don't care.
He ain't one of us.
He ain't one of us. And I heard that when I was over there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry. The man's wearing the colors of your country. You should back him, right? And that's what I'm so happy that Carlo Ancelotti is mentoring Moise Kean now because you have a cultural connection there. You have that person who can guide him and shape him. And I think that Mancini could have done that with Mario at Man City, but Mario needs to go to a place like MLS where he can come here, he can play, he doesn't have to worry about any of this. And I swear, let's say it is some manager from an unnamed team who calls him up, and Thierry Henry calls him up and says, hey, Mario, let me tell you a story about me coming over here. Let me tell you about all the racist abuse I did not get.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the money I made. I looked like a wizard. Yeah. Come here and make cash, my friend. Mm-hmm. Just come here and get one more ride for the cash. And that's what he needs to do.
Yeah, 100%. There was also an update on our situation with Chelsea and Tottenham.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. So charges are not going to be filed. There was not enough evidence to charge.
Unable to find any evidence to corroborate or contradict Rudiger's claim, report of racism during the Premier League match last month.
Yeah. Chelsea issued a statement. They said, we support Tony Rudiger totally and unequivocally on this matter, and as Tottenham's statement makes clear, a lack of evidence does not mean an incident did not take place. In responding to this incident, we must be very careful about climate we create for players who experience and report racist behavior. It's vitally important we continue to encourage all players, whatever shirt they wear, to report racist abuse without fear or doubt or reprisal. And that's the key here. Other people didn't come forward if it happened. If it was a misunderstanding, it's a misunderstanding. But you don't know enough to say it didn't happen, and you don't know enough to say how it happened.
Yeah.
So you can't charge anybody here, but that doesn't mean that something didn't happen. And nobody knows. So players have to feel supported when they think it happens to do what Rudiger did. And you follow the protocols and you handle it in that way. And that's how it's going to get rooted out.
Tottenham's quote attached to all of this: the club and the Metropolitan Police have now exhausted all avenues of investigation. We carried out extensive reviews of CCTV images and footage working with professional lip readers. All materials and reports have now also been reviewed by the police who've carried out their own investigation, end quote.
So what do we do? I mean, the guy claims he heard it. right?
There's nothing you can do at this point. And sometimes that's going to happen. I mean, how many times do you see take your pick, any kind of crime where you don't have the evidence to charge somebody with it?
Right.
But, window got smashed. You just don't know who did it.
Yeah.
You don't know how this happened. So you move on, but those statements are very important. And I think Tottenham's statement is important along with Chelsea's statement because, you're not making up a punishment here. You aren't able to file charges against anybody, but you're not denying that it happened either. And that's the important part about it. You don't know. He heard something. He reported it. That's what should happen every single time.
Exactly.
Players should never feel like, well, I can't say anything because, well, if they don't find the guy, then I'm going to look bad. No, it can't be that way.
No, they can't be. But I think the most important thing is that you report it immediately, you get it out there, and let the cops do their job. But the thing is, this can't deter people from reporting it.
No, that's the key. That's the absolute key here. Luckily, it's not a long Mondays with Racism segment. There's not
the A block went 15 minutes on it.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Like we always say, when it happens, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to try to get to the bottom of it, and we're going to shine a light on bad actors, and hopefully with the idea of this leaving our game.
Right, well, we have to, and it's not just Italy anymore. We can't.
It never has been. I hope people understand that.
It never has been, but it's something where I think people were, for a while, justifiably so. Everybody pointed the finger at like Italy was the only ones that had this issue, and I think now we could just point to Italy and say, well, England's at least doing something about it.
Yeah, I think that Italy was probably just the loudest location where it was happening, and it had the most constancy, I guess, is probably the best word.
No, it's not quite that, because the Italian Federation and Serie A handled it poorly.
True. Oh, yeah.
And that added to it. Yeah. The Premier League and the clubs in England have handled it much better.
Yeah.
So that's helped with that, and hopefully Italy's learning something and not creating any more marketing schemes on talking about this.
Oh.
Because, yes, that was not good.
No, that was not. Wow. So where do you want to go next, sir? Since 15 minutes, we've done 15 minutes.
We burned 15
We've done the
minutes
Geico version of Mondays with Racism.
So, Zlatan, he played. Yeah, okay, well, thank you. Zlatan's statue is officially done.
It's still somewhat there.
Cut off at the ankles.
They got cut off at the ankles.
It got dropped at the ankles. It didn't get cut off. Like, it's still attached to rods and things.
I mean, so...
Are they going to ship it to Milan?
Well, they should, because the only thing that's in common here is that both things named Zlatan are statues and not really moving that much. Because Zlatan was supposed to be Milan's little... The nuclear option for their offense, and nothing.
And now it's a nuclear accident for their offense.
Pretty much.
He put 2 headers on goal, Nick.
Okay, 2 headers on goal. That's fantastic. Awesome.
It is.
Yay! What was the score line?
0-0.
No. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Well, they didn't concede 5.
They did not concede 5. Milan is still a disaster.
I think they tried, though.
They are plummeting in the standings. They are now down to 12th after a draw, a loss, and a draw.
It's not good.
It's not good. And allegedly, reports are out there saying that PSG is willing to launch an €80 million bid for Lucas Paqueta and Romagnoli, which I think you're going to probably have to do to try to get the books balanced. And Pioli's obviously gone at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. So I don't know who you're going to turn to from a management perspective, because Ancelotti's at Everton. Right, you've already tried the young and up and coming manager in Gianpaolo. That didn't work. I don't know where you're going to go. I don't know what you're going to do. But Milan's a disaster zone, so I wish them all the best. I'm just going to kind of observe at this point. I want to know who's going to buy the team, because the Elliott Fund can't keep doing this, where they they put the team further out of compliance with financial fair play. And somehow just keep going, no, we're going to keep spending, baby. I mean, they said they were going to spend in January. They're like, oh, yeah, we're going to spend in January. We may get some players in the summer. We don't know.
We're just going to keep going.
We're just going to keep. We don't know where we're going, but we're just going to keep going, man. It's going to be a great time.
16 goals scored in 18 matches.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Defensively, I mean, we joke about the defense. 24 goals and 18 conceded. It's not horrendous, but if you saw the Atalanta game, 5-0, and then if you saw the Three Stooges routine that was going on today at times, man.
No, look, you have Suso who's putting passes into areas, and they're either being the pass itself is being misplayed, or it's being mishandled on the opposite end. There is no continuity between that attack at all. And if you think that it's bad only with the lack of continuity in the attack, the defense is even worse. The defense is an absolute nightmare. I mean, they are all over the place. And no one knows where the other person's going. No one knows who's supposed to go to the man, who's supposed to go to the ball, who's supposed to cover this space, who's supposed to push forward to help with the attack, who's supposed to hang back. Nothing. It's completely discombobulated. And this is a side that when we talk about sides that keep players for too long, this is what happens when you keep players for too long. Milan held on to all of their stars, their aging stars, for so long, trying to get that one last gasp at the title of the Scudetto, one last shot at trying to get a Champions League, and then it all went to garbage, and they replaced it with a 250 million euro, 250 million euro in transfers that absolutely blew up in their faces. I've so rarely seen that large of a transfer budget go completely down the drain, and this is what you have. So for anyone out there who says, please keep our players for years and years and years, why can we not keep player X for half a decade? Why can we not keep player X for... This is why. Because if you hang on for too long and you don't rebuild and you don't replace, you end up in a situation where your stagnancy becomes toxic. And Milan was stagnant, and now they're toxic. So
8 points out of the relegation zone. Do you think they have to sell here in January? They have to sell those players and bring in that money?
No. I don't think they have to sell in January.
You think they should sell in January?
I think if you can get if that report is true and you can get 80 million for Paqueta and Romagnoli, I think that you try to see if you can get it to 90.
Okay.
If you can get it to 90 to 100, you take that deal.
Yeah.
I try to push it to at least 100. I think Romagnoli is the buy here.
Yeah.
And Paqueta has not meshed with Milan. I think he was trying to follow in the footsteps of Kaká and Dida and you know, he had Ronaldinho there for a while and old school Ronaldo before on the very last shred of his tendons in his knees. Mm-hmm. The ligaments rather, and it just hasn't worked out. So if you're trying to get that deal, I think you try to get 90 to 100, make that deal happen, at least get toward compliance, and you're going to have to start promoting youth product. You're going to have to, and it's going to stink. But if anything, you're going to be better than Brescia, right? And you're going to be better than Genoa, and you're going to be better than Spal.
So you don't have to worry too much about relegation.
Not too much.
Okay.
You're probably going to end up finish the season probably 14, 15. Fiorentina, I think, is going to find some level of improvement. They'll move up. Sassuolo's going to hang around there. Udinese is going to hang around there. Sampdoria. But you're going to be better than Lecce. You're going to be better than Brescia, better than Genoa, and better than Spal. So if you can make that, try to get toward financial fair play compliance, do that, and then at least use some of that money on some cheaper talent coming out of South America in the summer.
All right, let's move over to the other end of the table. Inter this afternoon, 3-1 win in Napoli. It's their first Serie A win at the San Paolo in 23 years. Huge win.
Yeah, it's. I mean, good for Inter. Inter has been, and I think we all know that I am not an Inter fan by any stretch of the imagination.
I've heard this, yes.
You've heard this.
This is legend.
Right.
It's a theory, yeah.
I will say that what Inter's doing this year is absolutely amazing. The job that Conte is doing, that Beppe Marotta has done in rebuilding this club. You're watching this rebuild of Inter, happened a lot on the same lines as you watch the Juve rebuild, where a lot of people were questioning some players going out, like, oh, what are we doing? But then you see a move like Lautaro Martinez come in, right? And they got him for what, 15, 20 mil, something like that? They have his valuation at what now? 100 mil?
Yeah.
110
and it keeps
mil?
going up.
Manchester City, come on down.
Yeah, and that's how you make the moves. Like, Serie A is no longer in the buy club. They're not. So you have to do what most leagues around the world are doing, which is to poach some of the leagues with a little bit more financial turmoil, get those players in, build them up, prove their worth, and then sell them for double, triple, whatever you brought them in for. And Inter's doing that, and they're doing it while being at the top of the table. Are obviously succeeding in Europe? No. But if they can win the Scudetto this year and keep Juve out of the headlines for once, my God, what an accomplishment! If they can do it, what an accomplishment!
Both teams 14-1-3. 18 matches played. Inter, slightly better goal differential, plus 24 to Juve's plus 18. Juve's won their last 3. Inter's won their last 2. A couple draws before that.
Yeah.
Where do they play in the second half of the season? Do you remember? Is it going to be in Milan or is it going to be in Turin?
Let's pull this up here. So I see that they're going to be. They have Lazio coming up in February. Udinese. Let's go ahead and just do the win-loss here.
Okay.
Let's do that. So they're going to play Atalanta. That game right there is going to be...
That should be a fun one on Saturday.
That will be absolutely must-watch.
2:45. You can watch it here at the Brewhouse Cafe on one of the 9,843 televisions.
That's what I call a promo. That right there is going to be the game of Serie A for this weekend. Because if Inter can get a win over Atalanta, it's not only a statement win for like the eyeball test, but Atalanta is serious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, they're hanging points on everybody. So if you can beat them, best of luck. I think if Inter beats Atalanta, they're winning the Scudetto. This early, I'll call it. If they beat Atalanta, I think they're winning the Scudetto. And then you're playing Lecce. You're going to win that. You're going to win at Cagliari. You win at Udinese. You're going to throttle Milan in February. Lazio. That's going to be a tough game because
Lazio's won their last 6.
Really good.
Yeah, Lazio's flying up the table.
Yeah, Lazio's, for all the trouble that they have with their ultras, they are absolutely solid. That 3-5-2 that Inzaghi's running, it is absolutely shutting people down in the wings. You can't get anything done. And when you funnel inside, you're talking about going against Milinkovic-Savic, and he's just a monster. He had a down year, but, I mean, his value's shooting through the roof. And then you have, you're going to be playing Sampdoria. You're going to win there. And then you're going to be at Juve March 1.
Coming on after Europa League.
Yeah. And so I think that game right there, but if you look at the previous schedule, I think that game's going to end in a draw. And I'll give you my reason why. Is that Conte can grind that. He can grind that down to nothing. And I think Sarri is so desperate to try to get his brand of ball happening.
Right.
There still seems to be a little bit of disjointed activity in that midfield. I don't think their midfield is necessarily quality enough to handle Inter. At the same time, all it takes is Ronaldo to have one shot.
So that's coming after Europa League for Inter. It's coming after the first leg for round of 16 for Juve, coming back from France after playing Lyon.
Yeah, hey, I'm still thinking that's going to be a draw. You can't count out Lukaku. I mean, he's been an absolute monster.
Yeah, he's been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Martinez, if someone doesn't come in and offer just ignorant amounts of money for Martinez in January, I still think they keep him until the summer. But I still think this is going to end up in a draw just because 2 wounded rather than 1 dead. So that's what I'm walking out with. And see, there's my hot take alert that's coming through.
Hot take alert.
Yeah, the hot take sirens are in full effect. Let's turn it to a legend who has retired today. It was a little bit of a surprise. You had to go back to the beginning of Daniele De Rossi's time in the Superliga in Argentina. where he said he was signing a fairly short contract, and we thought they might see it through the Superliga season, which has, I think, 7 more rounds left. But De Rossi came back from the summer break and did his physical and said, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah. I don't blame him. I mean, look, you're talking about a guy, he's talking about, what, a 19-year career?
Yeah, and he talked about how just being so far away, most of his immediate family came with him to Buenos Aires, but he has a daughter, I think, from a previous marriage who was still in Italy.
Okay.
And that was kind of a hard thing for him. He wanted to be close to her. Mm-hmm. So, he said, look, I'm done. I had the break, and he didn't want to come back.
Yeah.
And he wasn't featuring regularly either.
He wasn't featuring regularly.
Played 7 times, 5 starts.
I give him credit for the fact that he tried to go to a league where it was competitive. He could have gone to China.
Oh, yeah.
He could have gone to Japan. He could have made one last push for big-time money. But that's not De Rossi.
No.
De Rossi said, I'm going to go somewhere where it's competitive, where I'm challenged. And he found a league where you're going to be challenged, and it's going to be competitive, and the fans are nuts. And, he says he loved his time with Boca. But it is time. He said he wants to get into management. I think that's a fantastic move for him.
Yeah, I
really
love
want to
that
see,
idea.
Yeah, I want to see. He has so much to give to the game. And I know a lot of U.S. men's national team fans want to go back to 2006 when he carved open one of your boys' heads.
He did.
I mean, hey, it happens. Look, he was a young guy. He was a little explosive back then. And some things happened. Sometimes it may be good. Sometimes it maybe you sit out until the final. But I salute to De Rossi, because that man, there have been 2 players in the history of Roma whose loyalty has been absolutely unquestioned. And that is Francesco Totti and Daniele De Rossi, because those guys have been absolute warriors for that team. And for them to walk away in the way that they did, and especially for De Rossi, who tried to go to a competitive league, I have nothing but respect for that man. And I don't blame him. I give people a little bit of, on this show, I give people a little bit of insider baseball on my life, right? When Turner decided that my time with them had come to an end, they said, hey, look, go interview, talk to whoever you want, and whatever, we support you 100%. And I sat down for an interview, and the lady said, I talked to her for maybe about 45 minutes to an hour, and she said, I want you to be a showrunner in L.A., right? I have a friend of mine, they're doing like one of these renovation shows, one of these, we want you to run the show. I need you to fly out to L.A. and sit down with them and work this thing out. It took me exactly 4.5 seconds to come to the conclusion I wasn't going to do it. Right. And for somebody who went to school in Atlanta and didn't grow up in L.A., didn't grow up in New York, and have that, immediately available, like, hey, I have a friend or a cousin or a brother who's running a show right down the street, go down there and talk to him. It was the dream. And I thought about this character who's over here to my right, and within about 4 seconds, I was like, in the length of time of 4 seconds was, how can I say this respectfully? Which is, I can't do it. I can't make the move. So for De Rossi, I don't blame him, man. If you got a kid and you've got to be around, you've got to be in their life. Whether or not you're with the mom, that's inconsequential. But you got to be there for your kid. So I salute to De Rossi, man. He made the wise move.
So this is all you need to know about Daniele De Rossi, and this is from the Boca in English podcast, which is a great resource following Boca Juniors in English, CABJ_English. But it's originally from Ezequiel Sosa, who is a journalist on radio in Buenos Aires. And it's translated to English. He said, this morning when talking to his teammates, De Rossi cried quite a lot. Afterwards, he watched the practice behind a fence while wearing a Boca sweater, and he continued to cry. I mean, that's him. That's De Rossi. I mean, he this whole thing, he went into this eyes wide open, heart on his sleeve. He wanted to play for a club that he had watched, he had seen. Mm-hmm. I mean, he loved Maradona, so obviously Boca's going to have part of his heart, and he said that. He's like, he's leaving part of his heart in Buenos Aires. Like, I think he wanted to give more, but after that break and then having to be separated again from family, at that point of his career, I think he was just like, no, I don't want to do this anymore.
No.
I've done enough.
Yeah.
Over 600 matches, over 100 caps. I mean, there's nothing more to give.
Yeah, no, he won he won just about everything there was to win. Outside, I mean, obviously not the Champions League, but you talk about a guy who won the World Cup at a young age. He's won Coppa Italia. I mean, he was on a very competitive Roma team, and he's a guy that he has no problems. He doesn't suffer from the Cannavaro syndrome, right? So Cannavaro, he was supposed to be the legend at Juve. Calciopoli happens. He leaves. He goes to Real Madrid. The body ends up failing. World Cup 2010 happens. He ends up trying to go back to Juve, and he was booed out of the building. That will never, ever happen for De Rossi.
And he's got another place now that he can call home.
Exactly.
And that's what's kind of cool about it. Like, I've seen people say, like, oh, it's a shame he went and played somewhere else. He wasn't just a one-club man. This is different. This isn't like going to a club in the same planet in a lot of ways. This is a whole different world. I mean, just some of the quotes from De Rossi, like he gave a press conference in Buenos Aires, and he said, when we were eliminated against River, I will never forget those 4 to 5 minutes where the fans chanted, I carry Boca in my blood, I carry Boca in my heart, and I had tears in my eyes. I mean, he really fell in love with this whole process.
Right.
And 7 games, it felt like a long time for him, and I think it'll feel that way for a long time.
It was never a joke. It was never a joke.
It was never about money.
No, you could go to Japan and you could do what Iniesta did, where he can't show up for a game and the team hires like a lookalike to show up. You could do that. No. That's a joke, right? You're collecting your paycheck. Look, I'm not mad, man. Get your money, secure the bag. You only can do this for so long. But for a guy to say, I'm going to go to one of the hardest leagues in the world, I don't care. Anybody who has experienced Argentina Superliga will tell you it is an incredibly tough league. Watch Taise. And they run these 5-minute bumpers of absurd challenges that have happened, like, not just within like the past 2 years, within the past week, 2 weeks. I mean, he went out on his shield. You can't doubt it. The man went out on his shield, and that makes it far more respectable.
This was not Joe Namath with the Rams. This was not Johnny Unitas with the Chargers. It was not one of those kinds of situations.
No.
Quoting him from the press conference, he says, my desire is to be a coach. Now I'll have a few months of holidays, but I always enjoy being close to football. I'll certainly contact a few coaches, travel, meet with them, ask them about it. If I don't become a coach, I'll be an executive. I'll certainly do something related to football. He said he started thinking about it back in October, November. He says he couldn't sleep. It's not easy to leave. He thought of carrying on playing in this wonderful place with great teammates who then became friends, but the decision was made. Played for 2 teams I really love. All that will stay in my memory and my heart, the life of a footballer ends. That's how it is.
And that's true. It's very true. All of it ends. So I'm someone who's almost always pro player. Get your money, secure your future. And this situation is no different. There's a part of me that wishes he could have maybe come to MLS just because selfishly I wanted to watch him play in person here in the league. But outside of that, it couldn't have been done any better. So salute, Daniele De Rossi. Thank you so much for what you did, especially for the Italian national team, World Cup winners in 2006. Hoist the trophy, do what you got to do, kiss the trophies. It was amazing. And can you imagine having Gattuso and De Rossi on the same
Can you imagine
team?
trying to play through that midfield? You're going to die, son.
You're going to die.
Brian McBride knows all about it.
Yeah, it's lights out. I mean, they allowed, like, what was it, 1 goal in the run of play? I think they allowed 1 goal that whole tournament in the run of play.
You might be right.
I think it was. I think it was
The
just
only
1.
team that took points off of them was the United States.
That's it.
Which is crazy
Well,
because they finished with 9 players in that match. But anyway.
Hey, styles make fights, man. Styles make fights.
That was a fight, too. That was honestly one of the more impressive games of Bruce Arena's first tenure with the national team.
And to be honest, that was the one game. The United States and Australia games concerned me. Like the U.S. game especially, because Italy never has done well against teams that are willing to just fight with you.
Yeah.
If you try to get pretty with it, they can shut you down. If you want to go into like a defensive standoff, yep, more than happy to do it. But for a team that's willing to just grind and fight and elbow and kick and punch just as much as you, the U.S. team was that under Arena. That terrified me. And the Aussies, very similar. And so it was, but salute to him. He did what he had to do to get us out there with points. I'm not mad about it.
All right, John, you want to get into some FA Cup action?
FA Cup.
No crazy upsets.
No. A couple of replays that are interesting with subtext. The fourth round draw was today. And here's how it looks.
I was so hoping for City and Liverpool to be drawn together, and they were down kind of late where it could happen.
Toward the tail end of it. But look at the fourth round draw. The winner of Watford and Tranmere after the replay, and I think this was one of the big shock results of the round, where Watford had a 3-0 lead. Tranmere comes storming back. It's 3-3. You get a replay. And so the winner of that one will get the winner of Wolves and Manchester United. Hull and Chelsea, Southampton will get Middlesbrough and Tottenham, and that's another one that was not an anticipated result with a 1-1 draw. QPR Sheffield Wednesday, Bournemouth and Arsenal. Arsenal knocked off Leeds today. The minus 225 came through for those of you that were purveying the juice boxes and stayed away from the plus 162.
God, Leeds they could have scored like 5 or 6 in the first half. They were all over Arsenal, but props to Mikel Arteta for whatever he did at halftime. Arsenal looked completely different in the second half, and Leeds couldn't play at the same level they did in the first.
Northampton will go up against Derby. Derby winners, Wayne Rooney, old 32 red.
He's part of the Holding Midfielder Appreciation Society now.
He is.
Wayne Rooney's a holding midfielder.
There was not a whole lot of running back and forth by Wayne Rooney, but he was there to put the passes where they needed to be and back to defend. And
I love it. I love that he is remaking himself in this kind of position. This is great.
Amen.
So it was 1-0 Derby, knocked off Crystal Palace. They'll get Northampton, Brentford and Leicester, Millwall, Sheffield United. 2 more replays to decide this bunch, Reading and Blackpool, Cardiff and Carlisle. The Slaven Bilic Irony Society comes out in the fourth round with West Brom taking on West Ham.
How many people are part of that society?
1, Slaven Bilic.
Okay, fair enough.
Burnley and Norwich going at it. Bristol Rovers and Coventry. They have a replay. The winner of that one gets Birmingham. Manchester City and Fulham. So it's an anticipated result for Pep Guardiola. Rochdale and Newcastle. Miguel Almiron scores.
Hey!
But also Rochdale scored to turn that one into a replay. Folks were less than pleased about that. Going up against our buddy Carl Robinson in Oxford.
Oh, Oxford United. Still whining and complaining about Columbus Crew pulling Chris Cadden back from the loan, which had already been agreed. Like he wasn't staying at Oxford United. But now big man Carl Robinson talking all kinds of big stuff about
junk.
Oh, well, I think it's a bad move for this player at this stage of his career to go play in America, and he's getting bad advice from his agent. We'll see how many loans Carl Robinson sees from anywhere, really.
Really. I mean, you want to open your pie hole there, Carl, and have that kind of stuff come out. How much love are you going to get in the third tier of English football, telling folks, "Oh, he's going back to MLS. He's making a mistake."
Hey, but they might get promoted.
Hold on, John. I had a mouthful of French fries.
Yes, you did. You
what
still
tier?
do, actually.
What tier?
3.
Ooh, that's the number after 2, correct?
That is on your way to 4. That is correct.
And it's descending in order, right?
Yes, that is accurate.
Okay,
yes.
good. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yes, you have the Prem, you have the Championship, then you have League One, which is where Oxford United currently is. Although they are in the fight for the promotion playoff,
right?
They're in that gaggle right now.
Right.
There are a lot of folks who are still chasing after that spot, but Oxford United, right there's a part of it. Carl Robinson in the third tier of English football said it's a bad idea to go back to MLS.
It reminds me of if you have the worst house on your block and you're surrounded by all these McMansions and you have a dilapidated
You're the last holdout on the block?
Yeah. That doesn't make you awesome, right? I feel like that's what this guy is. He's got the last dilapidated house on the block. Just because you're in England doesn't mean you have a superior
Just because
team,
you haven't liked any of the offers for your acre of land.
Right. Yeah. You play in England. Congratulations on your location. That means nothing That means nothing.
Oxford United's roster value, according to Transfermarkt, is a little over $11 million. Mm-hmm. Columbus Crew, which is not one of the big teams in MLS,
Nope.
$33 million. So
2 times.
Just saying. And I also feel like Transfermarkt undervalues MLS players. We've talked about that many times.
They do.
So there you go, Carl Robinson. Have fun.
Portsmouth and Barnsley is your last matchup.
Who are we rooting for in the FA Cup, by the way, playing Oxford United?
Give me that.
Either Rochdale or Newcastle. They have.
Well, that would be great. It's a little hard to pull for Steve Bruce sometimes, but that would be great.
Well, no, you're pulling for Miguel Almiron. You're not pulling for Steve
Pull
Bruce.
for DeAndre Yedlin, too.
True.
We'll pull for quite a few players. But if it's Rochdale, I'll pull for them, too. Anybody against Oxford United.
Yeah. See, and I like that. That's how it should be, is anybody but Oxford. It's an ABO.
Jackie Fresh has just said Man U. So that's
Well, they got to get past Wolves first.
That's gonna be tough.
They're in the Gummy Bear Cup tomorrow. They play City. The Carabao Cup.
Yes, the
Carabao
Carabao.
Cup.
The one that
Hopefully
was created out of whole cloth.
Yeah, hopefully it's not the nasty, sugar-free gummy bears, because those are nasty.
Not to be confused
Haribo.
with Johnston
seriously.
paint.
Make people violently ill, I think.
Like I feel like this is the Festivus tournament in England. Like
It's
instead of a
not
tree,
even
we
that.
got an aluminum pole.
It's like the Arbor Day tournament. I mean, it's just a waste. But you want to go ahead and get into some Mondays with Reddit?
Mondays with Reddit.
Ooh, let's go.
All right. Ole Gunner is already playing shenanigans when it comes to the Carabao Cup tomorrow.
Okay.
He is calling for protection for his Manchester United players from City's, quote, tactical fouls.
Ooh, okay. So he's already
He's
putting it out
planting
there.
seeds.
All right.
I like it. Go Ole.
You know, I think that's necessary. Sometimes you have to and call this stuff out in advance, have the refs, put the refs under a little bit of a spotlight and just say, okay, let these calls go. Because you already know I've called you out for it pre-game, so you can't find me.
Oh, yeah. You've
already put it out there.
You're planting the seed. It's
Planting
done by
the
the
seed.
underdog all the time.
That's right.
We've seen it over here on this side of the Atlantic. Pick your sport, pick your game.
I see nothing wrong
and
with
he
this.
did it really well, too. So he said, when talking about these tactical fouls, he said, that's a big thing. And sometimes I look at the referees and I look at our games, and even if they are just little fouls, there have been teams who have stopped us with those little fouls, which has stopped us showing how good we are when we attack. But I didn't raise the subject this time. You did.
Here's something.
So he's turning it on. He's pulling up the subject.
Uh-huh.
He's planting the seed, but now he's twisted it to put it on the media.
Oh, yeah.
Just when you think you figured out the answer, I changed the question.
That's good stuff out of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I like it.
Rather than the traditional medal, each member of the League Cup winning team...
They get a bag of gummy bears.
Close. They used to receive a tankard.
Ooh.
Oh, of the nasty energy drink?
Yeah. You get a tankard. When it was the EFL Cup, you used to get a tankard instead of a medal. Now you get a medal. But in the old days, you used to get a tankard.
They should give him a case of the Carabao energy drink. Just
On
give him
an
a
empty
case.
stomach?
Sure.
I have never had Carabao energy drink in my life.
I don't think it's available in the States.
Nope.
Does it have depleted uranium in it or something?
It could.
I don't know.
No,
I have problems with even the logo. Isn't it like the steer head?
Yeah,
Yes.
the emaciated steer.
Yeah.
Desiccated is the one. Yeah, that's the word.
I mean, are there a lot of steer heads lying about in England? Can anyone in England give us an update on this?
Don't know about that.
I'm just curious. If there's random, look, I'm driving through,
I'm on the Isle of Wight, and there's a desiccated skull of a steer.
if it's a sheep head, it'd be one thing, but if it's
I'm going to take this in a different direction. So,
you sure about that?
England has the League Cup, and they got this big sponsorship, so they get that's a reason to do it.
Yeah.
All right, MLS, and you can go and partner with USL. They need to have a League Cup, and it needs to be sponsored by Crunk Juice. The Crunk Cup. Let's do this.
We the kind of people with the cup get crunk?
Oh. And I thought I had a good idea bringing that up. I shouldn't have brought it up.
Is this thing on? React to me.
I quit.
Oh, John. Yay.
I'm out.
Oh, that was awesome. Well done, sir.
I'm out.
I salute you.
You set that one up. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to.
No, I did not set
That
you up
was
to
impressive.
start playing Little John.
I feel like he did. I feel like he
No.
sent that right over because he knew that,
No,
that
I
if
did
I
not
put
know
if
that
I
was
put
coming.
crunk
I know
juice
that
into
much.
John's lap, pure magic is going to happen.
Ay.
Crunk juice equals pure magic. When was the last time you ever heard that in a sentence?
That is a marketing. That's
stuff's
a
actually
marketing
not that
slogan
bad.
Ready to happen.
It's not as good as Red Bull, but it's not that bad.
Yeah, look, I want wrap chips. I don't know if you guys have ever had
Never
wrap
had those.
chips.
No.
They're amazing.
No.
Yeah.
And they also feature images of some of the great hip hop artists.
Don't the Migos have chips?
They do.
Okay, I thought so.
The Migos have chips. There are great many artists who have chips, but you can find rap chips just about anywhere. That's my free plug of the day.
Okay. Wrap chips, if you want to sponsor us, we'll take it.
There you go.
We'll create a cup for you, too.
I will wear rap chip T-shirts
Sure.
everywhere. Yeah, for a very nominal fee.
Yes.
Look, I am very reasonable on my rates. I'm just saying. You know what else is reasonable, guys?
What?
The $20 holding midfielders appreciation scarves that we have
Attaboy.
right here.
That's a good segue.
For
Thank you.
Excellent.
your warmth and enjoyment. Also very fashionable and
True.
a black and
Well,
a
and you know,
dark
that's not
gray.
the only part that's fashionable.
Ooh, tell me more.
Yes. If you go to teespring.com,
Ooh.
you have the wardrobe, the SDH wardrobe collection.
Do you want to dress like the stars? Do you want to avail yourself to the public in comfort and style? We can provide you with a cornucopia, if you will, of fashionable and comfortable items.
That
For your-
include the Press or Pancakes t-shirts.
Oh, my goodness. The presser pancakes.
Pancakes. Long sleeve shirts, very nice. I liked it.
Ooh, long sleeve.
Yeah, we have
There
good reviews.
are hoodies available.
The hoodies?
Seasonally appropriate.
Yep. Mugs. The mugs are functional. We've heard.
I'm just saying.
Individual cities show your support for your team in team colors.
Individual. Does that include Memphis?
Yes, Memphis is on the list.
Look at that.
Memphis is having a press conference tomorrow, by the way.
Ooh, that's another segue.
And we're not talking about Memphis to
We're not talking about
either.
Memphis right now. That's on the SDH side of the business.
Yes, that is.
All right, what else
Yes.
do we have? What does Reddit have for us? Now that we've done our
Mondays
gratuitous
with
plugs.
Reddit.
Carlo Ancelotti ready for Everton to listen to offers for Sigurdsson as Ancelotti is trying to boost the transfer kitty.
Well, hello.
Okay. All right. Look, Ancelotti's going to make moves because he has to. Ancelotti has to make moves. There's no way. He's a guy that he's going to want to have a say in who comes in. And there's some managers who don't care. You know, I'll just tell you kind of what I need. And Ancelotti's going to want to put the hand in the cookie jar and make the selection himself.
So Everton is in 11th place, 25 points, but
Richarlison
only
is-
6 points out of 5th.
Yep.
Yeah.
Richarlison has done some amazing things for them numbers-wise in the last month.
I'm just saying, Ancelotti, don't be shocked if Everton starts moving up the table. And I know Liverpool fans are like, whatever. I'm just saying, just keep.
It don't
they're not gonna move
concern
that
you,
far.
sir.
Liverpool doesn't need to be worrying about anything.
No, they're fine. They pretty much have it all wrapped up.
I'm just saying, just throwing that out there.
Now, this is the thing that got me the other day. Leicester leaves points on the table,
Okay.
and the media surrounding everything in the Premier League was like, Leicester's title hopes dashed. Really?
Yeah. Have you not been keeping up with current events?
They had hopes. They did.
They had hopes. Well, much in the same way that I have hopes of like owning a house in Beverly Hills or.
When I buy a lottery ticket, I have hopes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
It's true.
You know, when I was single and tried to get Kathy Ireland to sign a T-shirt of mine, I had hopes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kathy Ireland reference.
She signed it. She's left-handed, by the way.
Wow, very nice.
Yeah.
Hey, when Miss Elizabeth signed a receipt of mine from the Chicago Pizza and Sports Arena, I had hopes.
There we go. Rest in peace, Miss Elizabeth.
Best wishes,
Legend.
Miss Elizabeth.
Aye. All right. Inter Milan
I've heard of them.
Uh-huh.
reportedly have presented Tottenham with an offer for Christian Eriksen.
Okay.
£10 million.
Okay.
Conte's priority is Vidal, according to reports, but rather than waiting it out to see if they can get Eriksen on a free, they're willing to drop £10 million.
Now,
right now.
That is a Beppe Murata move if I have ever heard one.
Hey, instead of waiting and getting him on a free, we're going to drop 8 figures right now.
Hey,
but that's not 8 figures. That's like us, going out and buying a new T-shirt,
grabbing a 20.
Yeah,
that's fine.
It is one of those buy low risk. You're not going to have to worry about much, and then watch. The guy will do quite well for them, and he will sell Eriksson in a season or two for double, triple what he got for it. That Beppe Murata, that's how he built he's built Juve, excuse me. And he did it with the idea of, hey, legend that has played for us for God knows how long. Yeah, you've been here for a long time. Hey, remember that whole highlight reel of goals he scored for us? Yeah, get out. Get out. And we're going to replace you with somebody we bought on for like 7 million euro or got on a free just because of where they were in the contract. It's a Beppe Murata move. Good for him.
That's a rather large doorknob that there's over there that you can hold on to.
They did it to Gigi Buffon.
Yeah, it's true. That's kind of wrong.
They did it to Del Piero. They did it to Buffon. They did it to the Nedved. They did it to everybody. If you're a legend, you got to go. We'll give you a job in the front office later on when you're certain that you're done playing. Outside of that, you got to go.
All right, so we mentioned Vidal. So this whole thing with him in Barcelona, like there's some kind of appearance bonuses or something that he was supposed to get, and there's been a lawsuit filed. So it's really bad with him in Barcelona. He's going to go. I don't know if he's going to go in this window, but he's going to go.
Right.
Now, you've got Inter, who has reportedly got him as a priority. Manchester United have entered the race to sign him. They're ready to offer £20 million.
Well, first of all, that's on his agent. Like if you structured your contract around appearance fees,
I don't know the
team's
details.
in direct control.
It's millions of dollars that he thinks he's owed that they filed a lawsuit about.
That's assumed risk to me.
But
I don't know the details. I'm not going to go out on that limb.
I want to know what the structure of the contract is, because if there's appearance fees in there, and if you're Barcelona and you're taking a look around and seeing where you are in the table and how squad rotation works, and you're finding options that are comparable and cheaper, that where maybe we don't have to pay those appearance fees if we move player X into the role instead of Arturo Vidal, I'm going to call the manager and be like, do you really need Arturo Vidal this weekend? No, I think we're okay for this weekend. Why? Yeah, he's not going. Yeah, he's not going to make the 18 this weekend. And that's it. That's all there is to it. I mean, that's on.
He's looking a little peaked. He was looking a little peaked at practice the other day.
I'm just throwing that out there. You play. You have to make it, especially if you have appearance kickers in your contract. You have to make it where the manager cannot drop you. And if you sit down with your agent and you tell your agent, yes, I can 100% meet this requirement, hey, good on you. But at the same time, it's a gamble. And if the team decides that, it's a 50-50 shot and we can go for a cheaper option, if I'm the team, I'm going to pick the cheaper option every time if I'm getting the same result.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, so we'll get into Transfers 101 here in just a minute, but one more from Mondays with Reddit.
Mondays with Reddit.
Francesco Totti, when asked what he would do if he were an agent and had Francesco Totti as a client, this is his quote, "I would not send him to play at Roma because they would sell him pretty quickly."
Wow.
Totti is a Roma legend.
Legend.
But was pushed out, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because
Pushed out of management, correct?
Well, yeah, he was pushed out in a couple different ways. The problem was how Pilata and the crew handled it. Word on the street was that he didn't receive any heads up from Jim Pilata that he was not going to be asked back or his contract would not be renewed. Instead, I want to say it was like one of the team representatives, instead of having like the big presser, instead of like going all out and showcasing, hey, look, this is what we're doing, and we salute this legend, this gladiator first. It was just kind of like, yeah, you're not coming back. And so I don't blame Totti for being angry. And then they offered the olive branch and said, hey, look, come back in, we'll make you an executive. And then they shoved him right out the door too.
Totti also liked an Instagram comment telling Roma to sell Florenzi.
Yeah.
Totti versus Roma all day.
Yeah. And this is what has happened with. I mean, there are positives with having American ownership in Serie A and in some of these European leagues, and there's also a drawback because in American sports, when a player's time is up, there's typically some sort of conversation, with an agent. Hey, look, this is not going to happen. You want us to break it to him? Do you want to break it to him? However you want to do it. And then we have a press conference. They sign a one-day contract, and they're gone, right? They may be a brand ambassador down the road or whatever. But American athletes just kind of go away, and they go live on a beach for a couple of years, and they come back and be the brand ambassador. In Europe, it's not the case. They're part of the culture, and you have to handle it the right way. And Pilata did not kiss the ring. The ownership group, the management group, none of them kissed the ring of Totti, and he's making them pay for it now. And this is why you have to handle it correctly, because these athletes don't go away. They hang around. They always have microphones in front of their face. I mean, he was playing beach volleyball not too long ago. The paparazzi were there. They were snapping photos. They were asking him questions. I mean, you have to handle this stuff the correct way, and Pilata screwed it up. And I hope that Pilata, who's allegedly about to sell the team, I hope that Dan Freakin's group maybe brings Totti back into the fold in some way.
Should be first move.
Should be the first move. And
bring De Rossi with him.
Yeah, and you bring them both back, and you say, we're not going to have you in charge of player selection. I'm sorry. But we want you to be well-paid brand ambassadors, because they're going to be the ones who a lot of the youth product are going to look up to.
Say run the academy, be in charge of it, get there. I don't know if Totti wants to be a manager, but De Rossi does.
Yeah.
Get him his badges, let him work through the academy, and take care of a club legend like you should.
That's right. And he should be one of the highest paid employees on the team. It's just what it is, and that's how you have to handle it. Because one story that came out of the 2006 World Cup win is when they had the parade through Rome. The crowd was going nuts, and some of the players who were not with, either particularly large clubs or they were with big clubs, but they did not necessarily that used to that raucous of an environment, were kind of in awe. And Totti leans back and he goes, "Boys, this is all for me and De Rossi, and this is like every day. So I don't know what to tell you." and it was just like, but he lives and breathes. And one of the greatest stories is that I think it was Milan who came in and knocked on the door, and Totti's mom threw him out and told him, "No boy of mine is ever going to play for you." And it was known from the time that he was a youth. He was only Roma, and for him to be on the outs now is a problem. And what concerns me about this, tying it back to Milan, is the same thing happened to Maldini. Mm-hmm. And Milan's ownership group shoved him out, kept him out in the cold, and when they brought him in, they brought him in a true management role, and it has not worked out so well. So bring him in now, put him in a role where he's more of an ambassador outside of a decision maker, and pay him out the nose. That's what you guys need to do. Roma, call me up. We can discuss these things.
You want some talk?
Who?
You want to buzz through the papers real quick?
Well, we can.
Okay.
Inter Milan are leading Aston Villa and Newcastle in the race to sign Olivier Giroud from Chelsea.
What? Why would Inter Milan need him?
Depth.
But do you want him for depth?
Why not?
I don't know. I don't like that move at all.
Change of environment.
Who else is in the running here?
Aston Villa, Newcastle, Inter Milan.
Why is Inter in that conversation? They should have nothing to do with a conversation that includes Aston Villa and Newcastle. That tells you all you need to know about Olivier Giroud at this point.
No, it tells you everything you need to know about Serie A. Serie A, you have to make sure that if you bring in talent, you are bringing in talent for a short period of time, and you have to make sure the price is right. So you are going to be in conversation. We had this conversation before where 30 million, 40 million, that's probably the top end of what you're going to be paying for a lot of the players that you're trying to bring in. And Inter is not that far outside of financial fair play trouble.
Yeah, that's just not somebody I'm spending much on. If you're looking to get Eriksson, if you're looking to get Vidal, okay, I'll have that conversation about it. I don't. If other people want, if you can get Giroud for that $10 million cut rate, okay, different conversation. But I'm not getting into any kind of bidding war with Aston Villa and Newcastle. Bye, go.
No,
See ya.
If it goes over
Adios.
15, I'm walking.
If it goes over 11, I'm walking. If it gets to 10, I might be walking.
Look, I bring them to Milan. I put them on a plane, fly them to Milan, and say, walk around, and then go do the same in Newcastle.
Yeah.
Come back and talk to me.
Hey, I saw Goal the Dream Begins. It looked wonderful.
That's right.
I don't know if Oasis is playing when you get off the plane, though.
They're not, and Anna Friel is not waiting for you either.
No, probably not.
I'm just letting you know that I would select Milan out of the other options.
Yeah.
My life. Look, I couldn't wear the blue and black. I'm sorry. That's just not me. It would probably catch on fire anyway. But at the same time, I would
pick...
pick...
a bad move for Inter. They should not do that.
No. Also out of the Daily Telegraph, Birmingham City facing the prospect of another points deduction for breaching EFL's financial regulations.
How many point deductions have they had?
This would be their second this season.
Yep. Get ready. You're going to see a lot more of this in England. Yeah. There's a lot of big clubs that you wouldn't think are having financial problems that are having financial problems.
Where was the article about the championship, the Athletic?
Yeah, I can't remember. It's a bunch of championship clubs that are on the fringes of having serious financial problems.
Yeah. It's not... I know that it's easy to watch these clubs and they look like they're dressed to the nines and everything looks great. But I know a lot of people here in the good old United States of America who are driving mighty fine automobiles, wearing designer clothes, and they are upside down in all of their credit cards.
Alligator shoes.
I mean,
Oleg Cassini's.
And I'm telling you, it is easy to put on that veneer of success. It is easy to put that out there and say, hey, I've got this, and you're broke. And one transfer, two transfer, three transfers, where you anticipate being able to move that player and it not happening, it's lights out, man.
Yeah, and that drop from Premier League to Championship, and it's I think what's happening more and more is you get the teams who are trying to get up, and they're throwing all the money in to try to win games, and you can never guarantee winning games. Even if you get the transfers right, you might have an injury. Right. Even if you get the transfers right, you might have a game where you need to win and you hit the post 5 times.
Yep.
And you don't advance, and you blew a whole bunch of money expecting to get a whole bunch more when you get promoted. That doesn't happen.
Yep.
And that's the problem, because you've got a lot of teams that are spending themselves into oblivion. And Birmingham City having problems, join the club.
Yep.
Well, understand that terminology, spinning themselves into oblivion. It's not that far of a road to get to oblivion. That's like 3 players. You got to think. You spend 10, 15,
with teams that are already stretched, trying to get promoted.
Right, spending 30, 40 million in a transfer window, trying to get that last couple of spots in a game a chance.
With the expectation, spending 50, and you're going to see teams do it. You're going to see championship teams do it this winter, where they're going to spend 50, 60, 70, who knows how many millions to try to get 190, 200 next year in that TV money, and they don't get it. And they didn't have the money to spend anyway.
Yep.
That's what's about to happen.
Yep. Daily Mail. Former midfielder Paul Ince has urged Manchester United to cash in on Paul Pogba and sell the disinterested star in the January transfer window.
Do it.
Do it.
There's no reason to keep him at this point.
There's no reason. None.
Testing your expertise and reinforcing your expertise on Aberdeen.
I make no guarantees.
Burnley are among the clubs considering a move for Aberdeen center back Scott McKenna.
Yeah, McKenna is at the point where he might have outgrown being in the Scottish Premiership. And I know he was linked to moves before the season, but nothing came up. And he's been, what's the classic phrase that you see in the papers over there? The want-away player.
Yes.
He is the want-away McKenna now at this point. So... You know, for a club like Aberdeen, you have a talent that's come through. He's at that point. You've maxed out what you can do with him. If he stays, you're not any closer to winning the title. If he goes, you're going to bring in money that you need to bring in, and you can potentially go get another young talent coming through. If you can get the right offer now, I think you do it, because I don't think it affects finishing second, third, fourth.
Manchester United is interested in James Maddison for a rather large fee from Leicester.
United's going to have to spend
mid-8 figures.
Yeah, they're going to have to spend money, and I don't know if that's the guy. I don't know, but I think selling Pogba is going to unlock a lot of opportunities for them. And if they're able to sell Pogba and get a guy like Vidal,
well, Juve just up their capital, right? I think they did a capital investment, so they are they've restructured some things, which can happen when you're owned by a conglomerate,
right?
You know, so Juve's freeing up some cash, and you would only do that if you were trying to do one of two things: one, either make yourself financially compliant, or two, free up some cash for a transfer. So don't be shocked if Juve's on the receiving end of that Pogba move.
That'd be great for Manchester United, because then if you get Pogba off your roster and you bring in a good bit of money doing it, and you take some of that money and throw it at Barcelona and get Vidal, we've talked about it when it comes to Manchester United. You need that kind of player, that grit, that glue, that attitude, that leadership. They don't have it.
Yep.
And that would be potentially a transformational kind of signing. It's not going to fix everything by himself.
No.
But he's going to give that team a backbone that they've needed. It could be one of those moves that goes under the radar because it's not going to be a $50, $100 million move.
No.
But it could be the exact move that they need. And if it means selling Pogba and just getting him out of your hair and using some of that money to outbid whoever for Vidal, and you're going to get 2, maybe 3 years out of it all, but he's going to be that mentor to so many young talents in that team that need it, because you don't have that right now.
Right. And just look at Inter, what they did with Lautaro Martinez, how he made that attack completely dynamic, and how, yes, they brought in Lukaku, and everyone said, oh, Lukaku's washed, he's no good, and then he's thriving, right? A change of environment can work wonders for a player's career. And this is a situation where if you brought Arturo Vidal in and you said, hey, look, man, we want you to come in here and be the general, I think that's a role that he can thrive in. Leadership, I think, does one of two things. It either exposes you, right, or you embrace it and it enhances you, right? It's one of two. It's only one of two. And I think it's one of those roles where if you brought him in and said, you're not here to fit in with a whole crew of players, we want you to be a leader, I think that's a role that Vidal could embrace, take his game to another level. Like you said, I would say probably on 2 years, or the shallow end of 2 years, he could make that happen.
I think you can get 2 years out of him.
Yeah.
Maybe 2.5 if you get him now in this window. So let's get into Transfer 101, but let's lead into it with this. So Matias Bustos Mija, reporter for Clarín in Argentina, has reported that Inter Milan have begun negotiations with Boca Juniors for 19-year-old midfielder Agustin Almendra. Top young talent. He's been linked to anybody who's anybody in Europe. It's going to cost at least $10 million. So when we get into the transfer window and Transfer 101, it's one thing to talk about a Pogba, to talk about even a Vidal, to talk about Eriksen.
Yeah.
They're all different kinds of moves, but MLS is involved in these kinds of moves in growing numbers, where it's a 19-year-old player that's going to have resale value, big resale value you would expect, and you're trying to outbid teams who could outbid you, but maybe don't see the need to outbid you now because they could buy him later.
Right.
And it's an interesting spot that MLS is in that transfer, push and pull, where they're bidding against teams that they would like to sell this player to if they win the bid.
Yeah.
It's a weird spot, but you're going to see more of this, and 8-figure transfers in MLS are going to be pretty common going forward.
I think it's something where we have to start looking at things in a different way. And the teams that are currently, I think, the most transfer savvy, and will be going forward, you're going to have Atlanta. I'm going to say Charlotte is going to blow people's minds because you have someone who used to run his own agency, who's going to be coming in and who's familiar with how and when to make these transfers. You're going to have to factor in age. You're going to have to factor in your needs as a club. And you're going to have to factor in the skill of the player and do your own risk-reward analysis on this. And you're going to have to say, okay, a 19-year-old, if I'm Inter and I say, okay, if I take this 19-year-old, what's the likelihood I can bring this 19-year-old, drop him in San Siro against Juve and have him contribute? Really?
Same conversation you're having with an Ezequiel Barco.
Right.
Before, but now it's a little different. And that's where MLS is. MLS is in a really interesting spot because they look at these guys from South America that you saw, European major clubs previously snatch up in this 10, 15, $20 million range, but not really have anything to do with them yet.
Right.
So they'd loan them out to a smaller club, or they'd go to a Sporting Lisbon in Portugal. They'd go to the Netherlands. They'd go to Belgium.
Right.
MLS is in that conversation now.
Right.
Portugal, Netherlands, Belgium. And I think they want to get to France.
I think France is probably the ideal spot, and I know people, the eyebrows go up when we say that.
Take PSG out of the conversation. I don't think you're far off of it now.
No, and I think you're 100% correct on that. PSG is obviously, if you have a traditional pyramid, and I know that's a loaded word, but that pyramid is extraordinarily tall and narrow in Liga. Right now, you could compete with the Eredivisie on money. I don't think you can compete with the Eredivisie on talent development because they have that history and that legacy.
They've got pedigree
of doing that. They have the pedigree, and there are players who may come out of the Eredivisie who may not be as good as players who come out of MLS, but you're going to sign them because they come out of an Eindhoven or an Ajax, and they have that name attached to them.
Just like you're going to buy Levi's instead of buying Ralph's.
Yeah, but MLS right now is in a position where you're going to be able to, if you go to like Paraguay and you start buying players from Paraguay, you are in that conversation. You're fighting against scouts from Italy. You're fighting against scouts from Spain. And you can provide those players an avenue, I think a more solid, more stable environment than you can if you take them and drop them into Europe right away. Because we'll use Paqueta as an example. You go to Milan, you get tossed in, it doesn't work out, and now what? You could go to a PSG, or you could go to Portugal and languish. There's no telling. But for MLS to have these conversations and bring in like a Miguel Almiron, develop and send them over, this is a symbiotic relationship that I don't think Europe was expecting to have. How many games does Newcastle appear on now for NBC?
Consistently.
Yeah. Why? Because there's a dedicated audience who buys in because they see Miguel Almiron play and they're like, I'm in. Yeah, we'll watch that. And when you see these teams who come over stateside and they say, okay, if we get Barco from Atlanta, maybe we can replicate some of that buy-in, that TV buy-in. We have an automatic buy-in now with a player who's established in America. There's a lot of dollars here. And I think the successful teams going forward will be the teams that understand you may bring in a player now for $7 million, $8 million, and it's not exactly maybe one of those core things that you thought you needed. Why are we doing this? Why are we spending this money now? But you have to make projections if you're an MLS club. You have to say, look, we have this player for a year, 2 years, develop, and by year 3, we're talking about moving them. And if the money's right, we make it happen. But the transfer is going to work a couple of ways. And this has happened in MLS, and this is something I think the fan base has to sort of buy in on. A transfer only works a couple of ways. One, a player's not fitting in with the team. So the player wants to go, the team wants to make the move, and then they'll tell the agent, look, go find a deal. X amount of dollars, just so we can recoup our cash, and we'll send the player. No problem. The player wants to leave, the team wants to keep. The valuation's going to spike, and then the conversations are a bit more intricate at that point. And then you have the other option, which is a player's at the end of the contract, and you're forced to make a move because the player won't sign an extension. The player, whatever it is, it's not going to happen. I don't care how good the player is. The leverage is gone at that point. And I'm going to use Darlington Nagbe as the example, right? Yep. We're not going to use the South America thing. I'll go Darlington. Darlington, I think...
That's a prime example.
Yeah. Would not sign an extension.
Right.
And we could talk about, well, we lost Darlington. No. Darlington's family is in Ohio. Darlington's college coach is coaching the team that he wanted to go to. Everything's circled around him wanting to go
First
home.
pro coach, too. I mean, Caleb Porter's coached him more than anybody else has in his career.
Exactly. And so the player elected to move. The player chose home over the opportunity to win more titles here. There's nothing the team could have done. So the team can either, one, say, we're going to play you to the end of the contract, good luck, or you move the player now and get the most money you can. And the team chose option 2, which is we sell the player for as much money as humanly possible.
But they did it in a way
Yes.
that we sometimes see teams screw up because
Correct.
You had the whatever it was, whether it was negotiation, whatever last year during the preseason.
Right.
You made it work out, comes back. According to Doug Robertson, there was a long-term deal put in front of him in the summer. He said no.
Yep.
You didn't panic and trade him then.
No.
You won 2 trophies. You got the most you could out of him, but you also then respected his wishes,
Right.
sent him where he wanted to go.
Yes.
You got maximum value for it. Everybody won in that deal.
Right.
And that rarely happens, but it did in this case.
Right. And if you're a South American team that's in this situation, a lot of times you will see players that get moved to some whatever team, and they'll just get sent wherever, flourish or languish, whatever. But we're going to tag a sell-on clause,
Right.
And
It's changing, though. And MLS is a big part of why.
Yeah.
Because now, if you're at Cerro Porteño in Paraguay, and in the past, you might have been sold to whoever in Portugal. If you're not going to Sporting, you go to whoever. It's all about the same. No, disrespect to Portugal, but Sporting is known for developing talent, moving it on. Benfica isn't necessarily known for that. Other teams, Porto's not known for that as much. So if you're going somewhere else, whatever. If you're going to Belgium, there's a couple clubs. If you're going to the Netherlands, there's a couple clubs. A lot of times you see these guys end up in Russia, in the Ukraine, who knows where.
And if you go there, good luck to you.
You might not be coming back,
No.
or you're not going to come back in a good way, and your value is going to be damaged.
Exactly.
Now, if you're Cerro Porteño, you look at it and you see, oh yeah, we made money on Miguel Almiron, even though we didn't sell him to Atlanta. He went to Lanús first, then he went to Atlanta, then he was sold for big money. Why don't we just skip Lanús and skip the middleman?
Yeah.
Why don't we just sell guys to MLS? Because there's a proven market now.
Exactly.
And that's why you have the rumors that you have out of Cerro Porteño right now.
Right. And you have clubs that everyone's fishing from the same pool, right? I mean, but the question is it's risk and reward. And for teams in Europe, they're talking about trying to get players for 40, 50 million. In the past, that number was obviously far higher, but with financial fair play, that number is coming down. Now you have teams that are no longer more than happy to splash 40 million on unproven talent. Instead, they're going to say, hey, look, let's go spend 5 or 10 million in a place like Paraguay or Argentina, and we're going to reduce our risk. And in some cases, they're going to say, hey, we're not touching these guys right now. We're going to wait on them to go to a little bit larger environment where the competition's maybe a little more, it's level across the board. And MLS is perfect for that because if you're a team in Europe that's well-funded, you have a large fan base, there is probably some significant travel involved. MLS is a fantastic test bed for talent.
Yep.
And because they can come in, is the talent probably going to be as good as the player you're looking at? Maybe, maybe not. But it's when you see Barco on the field and Barco cuts across and he's weaving around traffic and he puts a ball 15 yards exactly where it's supposed to go, when it's supposed to be there, and I don't care what level, it's a quality pass. You can sit there and go, that guy. Mm-hmm. And with the eyeballs that are here in America, the major markets that are
and
here,
worldwide now.
and it's worldwide.
Those MLS international TV rights, they're paying off in multiple ways.
Yeah. And so it's something where the value only enhances. Very rarely are you going to see young talent come here and absolutely just take. And it blows my mind when I see people on social media, and feel free to at me on this. I don't care. When you say, hey, look, let's just sell Barco for $20 million and call it good. For a player who's about to break into the senior team for the Argentine national side, what in God's name are you thinking?
No.
No, you're not. Just answer the question honestly. You're not thinking, you know what, I just threw a number out there, and it's just the first number that popped in my head. Just be honest about that, because you can't tell me that a kid who's about to break into the senior side for Argentina is worth less than $30 million.
Nope.
I'm starting
not
at
with what he's
$30
shown
million.
you already.
No.
Yeah, I'm starting at 30.
I'm starting at $30 million. And when you talk about the fact that he was suspended for a period of time, okay, the kid was how old again? I mean, what?
19 when that happened.
19? Okay,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of dumb things at 19 years old. I got a PhD in stupidity. I can promise you I can run through an entire list of dumb things I've done at 19 that would make Ezequiel Barco go, wow, really, bro? Really? But, you can't. It's a growth opportunity for him. He's learned from it. He's been a stand-up guy since. He's had some injuries here and there. He's been out for national team duty. Mm-hmm. Whenever he shows up for the national team, he delivers.
An outstanding U20 World Cup.
Outstanding.
Good with the U23s when they played Brazil.
At no point has this kid played, and you've been like, wow, he's kind of out of his depth today.
Well, some people would say that, but they were completely and utterly wrong when they said that.
Yeah. No,
average MLS winger.
He's somebody that when you go in and you watch him play, and he's done it under Tata Martino and now doing it under Frank de Boer, two different systems. And yes, I know that there's some similar bloodlines there, but at the same time, you're talking about that is still a feat to do that, to have that
different responsibilities
different responsibilities, yeah. And so you're asking a lot of the player. I'm starting at $30 million for him, and then if you want to have a conversation, we can go from there. But to tell me that teams like Roma, like Inter, are interested in him, absolutely.
Roma, Inter, Arsenal, Manchester United, and Sporting
Lisbon
are the five that have been linked so far.
Absolutely. And the thing is because it's a lower risk because you've seen what he can do. These guys, they watch it and they say, how big's that crowd he's playing in front of? That's a 65,000 person crowd right there. Oh, wow, okay. That means something. Mm-hmm. Because there are some players who can shine in front of 15,000 people. Mm-hmm. When you put the big lights on and you get in front of 65, 70,000 people, that throat gets mighty dry, right?
It's a big proving ground to be able to bring players from... And Barco at Independiente was at a large club with a lot of expectation, and he won a Sudamericana. It was a big part of it. But to come to another country and do what he's done and be part of trophies being won and be a big figure in this team and see his role change. I mean, he came in and he was the fourth, fifth attacking option in 2018, and you get to 2019 and he's the man. Yeah. And he steps up in the game against Philadelphia early in the season, rescues a point, scores big goals, goes to a World Cup. He performed at a very high level in 2019. Injuries derailed him. If he comes out in the first half of the season this year and is named to Argentina's either their U23 Olympic team, because I think they'll qualify, or named to their senior team for the Copa America.
Right.
If either one happens, and both are possible, the Olympic team I think is pretty much a lock, and the senior national team's not completely out of the realm of possibility. If he does that, you get to the summer window, you're talking a lot more than $30 million.
Yeah, and that's something that I think people have, it's something to me where it's risk reward, and when you see it, people just look and say, "Oh, average MLS winger." Okay, we've gone through the laundry list of things that this kid has gone through during his time with MLS, and we've also gone through the successes that he had in South America. That is a complete resume for a kid who you hand over to a European team and say, "The kid's ready. Mm-hmm. Whatever you want to do, the kid's ready, but you better come with the right dollar amount." And I think you're going to start seeing clubs. And you're starting to see a little bit of it. You're going to see Charlotte, I think, even before Miami, who makes these kind of moves that are the next level moves. Like Atlanta came in and they were like next level, and then other teams were like, "Oh,
Charlotte will be different." Because I think what Atlanta has shown is you can build a team and a brand and make money on bringing in players that your fan base might not know and players that have high resale value. Mm-hmm. Miami's a different conversation because they're going to assign some stars. I think they're going to need some stars, but they're going to look to do some of this too. They're going to look for a hybrid. Carolina and what's going to happen in Charlotte, this is going to be somewhere between Atlanta and New York City, I think, because they're going to look at it like, yeah, we want to bring in players and we want to maximize resale value and we want to make money. We're going to look for good deals and smart deals, and you're talking about somebody who has done that and put players in clubs from leagues that you might look at it and say, why are they signing a player from the Czech Republic? Why are they signing a player from Bulgaria?
Ask NYCFC about that.
There's value there. You have to get your scouting right because you can sign a bum too, and there's probably very few players who can make that jump effectively. You got to know what you're doing, but there's a lot of value there too if you put the work in. Just like there's value in Paraguay and in Argentina and in Ecuador and in any other country, but Charlotte could look at this from a different perspective and mine some parts of the world that maybe MLS hasn't done much of.
Yeah, and the Rolodex that guy's going to have, it's going to be absurd.
Because he's going to be able to get guys at clubs who are not playing a whole lot and say, oh, okay, your guy hasn't broken through there. We think he's a talented player. Why don't you loan him to us?
Yeah. And I think you might start seeing some of these clubs that if they can't necessarily make a transfer happen and there's some sort of financial difficulty and they have to offload some salaries, don't be shocked if you start seeing loan deals happen for some of these South American clubs to clubs in MLS where it's financially advantageous for everyone. And that's something that I think is one of the next steps. But just keep in mind that when the transfers happen, there's a lot that factors into it. It's not just about, hey, we're going to bring in somebody young, buy low, sell high. Yes, that's transfer. That's intro to transfer. But at the same time, sometimes you have to go and you have to pay $5-6 million, and we're going to bring a player in. You shake your finger and go, that's not who we need. That's too expensive for what we need. Take that money, stretch it out over the lifetime of the contract, and suddenly that starts looking a lot better. And suddenly you start to like, oh, when we start doing that math, that actually works out pretty well for somebody we're just trying to plug in. And let's just keep in mind that in a salary cap league, not one where we have to make things happen off of our financial statements over a 3-year period, but where we have a hard cap that we cannot exceed with a few special exceptions, the transfer market, where you buy your players, when you buy your players, how you buy your players, there's an art to this. And not everyone's going to get it right. And Atlanta, more often than not, has gotten it right.
Yep.
And when you see a team like DC, you could be like them, where you have the top talent on your team say, I want to go. Okay, we're going to make a deal happen. Okay, engineer something with PSG. The player's over there in his hotel room talking about how he's going to be partying with Neymar on his birthday.
GM was there too.
And then it all falls apart.
And reportedly, there was an offer on the table.
Yeah.
Reportedly, it wasn't that it didn't get to that point. There was an offer sitting in front of everybody, and DC ultimately turned it down and got nothing. And got a bad season out of Luciano Acosta because they strung him along in this, and he didn't recover emotionally. I mean, this is a guy who had his squad number picked out at PSG.
Yeah.
So you've got to manage all facets of it in the correct way.
Right.
And that means sometimes selling a player before you might think as a fan that it's time for that player to be sold.
Right.
And also bringing in a player that you might look at and say, wait a minute, why are we adding him? We've got players at this position. Why are we going there? We have other needs. Sometimes you have to be quick and nimble and take advantage of situations and adjust from your plan. You have to have a plan,
right?
But you have to be able, when things present themselves, to take advantage of it.
And at the same time, one of the things that I would maintain going forward for any fan that's new to Transfer 101, yes, there's going to be some sticker shock when you see numbers for outlay and things like that. But when you take it into the context of the player deal and the length of the deal and everything that you see that's involved in it, the number itself winds itself down to an average. So when you see large numbers come across your table, don't freak out about that large number because of the reinvestment opportunity that's there and is being anticipated.
And somebody out there in Atlanta United Twitter land, and I'm sorry I cannot remember your handle, said it looks like Atlanta United only cares about making money. It should be about winning, period. I'm hoping I quoted your tweet correctly. Ajax, based on the moves because it was outbound moves and there was concerns about LGP being sold.
First off, I'm trying to figure out the logic of that because how many trophies have there been in 3 years?
There have been 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can't judge a window before it's done?
Right.
You know? I mean, you can still add MLS, actually, you can add players through early May, but you haven't even gotten to preseason day 1 yet.
Nope.
Right.
You know, the order of moves doesn't really matter. It's all about how things go when you open up. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we've talked about it on the show. I think one big factor that I don't know why nobody's talking about it and why LGP became maybe a valuable tool to Xolos is Dario Sala.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dario Sala is the assistant manager at Xolos, and he was here for 2 years under Tata Martino.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think they randomly pulled LGP's name out of a hat.
Yeah.
You know, he might have been on a list of players that they knew because obviously they'd done business with Atlanta United, but Dario Sala comes in, sees the list, and says, yeah, him, top.
Right.
Do it.
Yep.
We'll spend it, whatever. Like, I've worked with him. I know he's exactly what we need.
Right.
That changes the conversation.
But also talk to me about a team like Ajax, right? When Ajax went on their Champions League run, right? And they were saying, they interviewed, I want to say Delete, and they were like, is there any way you stay maybe just another year? Is there another way that maybe you guys can keep this young team together and go for one more? He goes, that's not how it works here.
Yeah.
No.
Like, I leave and somebody else takes my spot. Whenever we talked about Miguel Almiron leaving, the question was put forward to me, if you have a chance for a trophy or selling Miguel, what do you do? My choice was you got to sell him because you have to prove the model. Well, the model's been proven.
Yeah, he's a little different. And look, MLS is a little different because of the schedule. I can buy that because you get into the summer window when a lot of money can be made. You're in the middle of your season.
Right.
That's a different conversation. That complicates it. I get that.
But my point with Ajax is they have found a way to win trophies and make money. And when you are not in the Premier League, that is something you have to juggle. You can't just say it's all about winning.
No, because like you said about Milan.
Yeah.
You know, what happens when you hold on to guys too long because you're all about winning?
Yeah.
You end up in the bottom half of the table and really no promise for getting out of that because you wasted your assets.
The American concept of contracts, like MLB, where you keep a player for 10 years and everyone's a legend.
You're throwing all the money at the end of the contract to backload it and all that kind of nonsense.
Exactly. Everything's backloaded. The team is inevitably going to go through the crap cycle.
Same in the NHL when you do that.
Yes, thank God. Yes, the NHL the same way. MLB the same thing.
NBA, you've got dead money on caps.
Yep. NFL, you have dead money on caps.
Well, NFL, you can cut players now. There's
players.
cap hits, but
there's cap.
But
hits.
it's much more in the NFL of you can lessen bad contracts. You still have to take a hit.
Yeah,
but you can lessen it. MLS, if you sign a player, if you put you're gonna manage your risk. If you're gonna put $15 million down on a player like an Ezequiel Barco, you're expecting to make money on the back end of it when you sell. If you get to a point you're like, man, all right, we've put this money in, we're not going to get that much. Then you get out of it when you can. You try to get your money back. You try to recoup. You don't want to blow that, especially if you don't have it to blow. MLS is getting to a point where, and this is where the comparison with Ajax doesn't really hold true because Ajax has more money than anybody in the Netherlands.
No, that's true.
They should be winning.
They should be.
And they should be able to continue to reload and win. Celtic is the same thing in Scotland. Many in leagues at that kind of level that are comparable to MLS, you've got teams with more money, they can spend more, they have more to work with. MLS, you don't, and that's the challenge because one big transfer in or one big loss out or one big injury because of smaller squads, because of caps, because of trying to level spending out, and you could fall like Sporting Kansas City last year,
right?
And you could fall out. There's no guarantees. Ajax could sell 3 huge players last year and still be 3 points clear at the top of the table and be 14-2-2. Atlanta wouldn't be able to do that, so you've got to find the balance. I understand that. But when you look at what Atlanta's done, I'm with you on proving the model. They did it. They made money on that deal, and they won MLS Cup.
Yeah.
This past year, they won 2 trophies. They were the 3rd best team in the regular season. They got to the semifinal.
Right.
They did what you need to do to have a good season. Now you're getting to a point where you're going into year 4. You've got players that you've had for 3 years, and you need to make decisions on, are you going to sign them to a new deal? Are they going to stay at the same amount? Are they going to take a pay cut to stay?
Right.
Or are you going to give them a raise to keep them?
Correct.
And all of those decisions are difficult, and all of those affect what you do in the transfer market.
Which is why you can't judge what teams like Atlanta and Miami and Nashville and whoever around the league against teams that you're maybe your favorite Premier League team.
No, it's a different world.
Different monies.
Yeah.
You got trades to balance out. You've got all kinds of different things that change it, and you just don't have the ability to outspend people.
Right. And the thing is like, if you're a fan of Chelsea or a fan of Liverpool, you may want a couple of players to stay all the way to the end of their contract. Well, in the Premier League, that's a heck of a lot easier than, the Championship or, even Liga 1 outside of PSG or Serie A. You have to move players. The worst thing that Atlanta United could do is let Barco go all the way to the end of his contract, leave to go wherever he wants, and he may be a team legend here, but you get not squat in return.
Because you wanted to chase one more win.
Right.
One more win.
Yep.
And you just can't allow that to happen.
You can't let that.
The Milan comparison is so important because you can do that even less here because everybody's so close to you. Now, Milan fell. They shouldn't have fallen. They were so poorly mismanaged that they fell out of one of those top spots. Manchester United's done the same thing. They shouldn't be where they are. It's mismanagement that put them there. But a lot of it was down to holding on to guys too long and chasing one more win, and you lost your spot.
Yeah, Ambrosini. I remember Ambrosini running around the midfield for Milan and then jogging and then halfway walking. I mean, it was even Pirlo. I think they got rid of Pirlo maybe a couple of years early, but you held on to these guys for so long, and it was diminishing results after diminishing results after diminishing results, and they kept saying, well, we'll add one more key guy here. We're going to bring in one big transfer, and it's going to make the difference. And they kept sliding down the table.
And at that point, what you're doing is you're throwing more money after bad money or ill-advised money at that point. And that's
Correct.
the key here, is that when you invest, it's a wise investment because you're looking at the future. You're not looking at, like what we're talking about with a championship, where you're going to throw money after bad money, and it ends up being worse money, and it puts you in a worse problem. You have to look at things in 2 separate tracks. You have to look at the now, and at the same time make sure that you've got the next season or 2 figured out down the line.
Let's take it to an American sports conversation because MLS kind of bridges the gap. Go back to the Braves at the end of the Bobby Cox run. It was all about getting Bobby one more pennant, right?
Yep.
It was all about keeping that group together as long as you possibly could. It was all about winning now and trading every prospect you had to get one more veteran guy that's going to win another pennant.
Yep.
They won one more division title, and they were beaten by the Giants, right, in the playoffs, I think. In Bobby's last playoff series, the Giants knocked them out.
Was that where Glavin had the really bad outing?
No, this is way after Glavin. This is 20. Oh man, I want to say like 2009 or 10. It was way after that. After they had dropped out and they lost the streak. Anyway, it doesn't matter who they lost to. They got their one more division title. They lost. They didn't get to the NLCS, but they had mortgaged the future to try to win one more thing. And then what did they do? They were awful. They were awful for a long time.
Yeah.
And they had to rebuild their farm system. They had to do that. What about the Saints right now?
Yep.
Talk about the NFL. Talk about how they've spent
money,
so
baby.
much money, and they keep trying to rearrange the cap, and they keep trying to make it work. And what have they gotten out of it after they won their Super Bowl? Their cap problem started after that. What have they gotten out of it? I think Peyton's 4-5 in the playoffs since the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what the
And
one
choke.
the one win, the one Super Bowl chase in the last 6 years, and that's it. It's all first round losses ever since, right?
Because it's all about, like, we have no money to work with. All right, let's restructure this. All right, let's push money down the road. All right, let's try to get this one more guy. And hold on just a little bit longer because you have Drew Brees. And it's not getting them anywhere. And when he's gone, forget it. They're not going to be competitive for who knows how long.
I mean, how many MLS clubs tried to do the same thing, though? Hold on to players, and then inevitably...
I think they've gotten out of it finally. It took a while. But now the scouting's opened up, and now MLS is an attractive proposition for a young South American player. And now Atlanta's changed the conversation in a lot of ways. And you're not doing what... I'm trying to think of the last team that was in that boat. It could have been the Galaxy, where they held on to Robbie Keane for a while, maybe 1 more year, 2 more years than they should have. They didn't reload after winning in 2014. It wasn't super pronounced, but that happened. Toronto, I think, is maybe edging in that direction, although they made a really smart move by getting Bradley back on a TAM deal, not a DP deal, to open up that spot for a big impact player. So they've mitigated it to a degree. Seattle got an MLS Cup out of holding on to guys last year, and they pieced it together after Chad Marshall had to retire. What they're going to be this year, I don't know. They could fall further down into the playoff picture in the West, or maybe even out of it.
Right.
They might be your example of that right now.
And it's something where when we talk about scouting, the investment in scouting, that's part of the growth of the league, is the scouting departments that, I mean, not too long ago we heard about, like, how many scouts do you have? We have one. Like, wait, what?
We don't have one.
Yeah, we have none.
We have somebody on a phone call that's an agent for somebody else, and we ask him for help.
But now you're proactively searching for South American talent. You're proactively looking. These teams now know who San Lorenzo is. They now know who Cerro Porteño is. They now know who these, if you say, hey, look, do you know who Cali is in Colombia? Like, yeah, we know who they are. Of course. We're looking at 2 or 3 different guys down there. I mean, the conversation's changing. But make no mistake, with financial fair play in Europe, you are now going, Atlanta United, Liga MX, they're all fighting the same teams from Europe over $15, $20 million valuations, where before that, you may not even have to worry about that because they're looking for the $40, $50 million dollar guy. Now they're saying, okay, now it's 5, 10, 15 million. Those are the players we're targeting. And that pool starts shrinking. So scouting is everything. If you are an MLS team, the cap is, just like Father Time, is forever an enemy. It's something you have to navigate, and the way that you structure your club, the way that you structure your team, and the way you structure your purchases, it all has to be hyper-managed. So in the early part of January, guys, it is January 6th.
Last I checked, yes.
We're 6 days into the January window. It's hard to judge right now. It's impossible to judge even, because if in a salary cap situation, you need to let some players go, especially if somebody comes in and is willing to pay far more than you thought you would get for them. If someone says, I don't want to sign an extension for you, you got to get maximum return. And maybe you have to let a player or two you like go, so that way you can bring in other players so you're more competitive in a shorter period of time. That's part of the Transfer 101, is knowing how to let legends go, knowing how to let good players go, so you can be more competitive in the short term. And setting yourself up for long-term success if you sell these guys for enough money to make it worth the while.
Mm-hmm. It's tough. It's easy to get wrong. It's tough to always get it right, but it is vital to survival in some leagues. It's vital to success in any league. Mm-hmm. And in MLS, I think in a lot of ways, it's even more important. You have safety nets. You're not going to go out of business if you're in MLS. So you're not going to be allowed to spend yourself into oblivion. But you can fail and miss the playoffs and miss those opportunities. And you have a quicker opportunity to get it right the next year than you do maybe in other leagues. You don't bury yourself for an extended period of time. But you got to get this stuff right.
Football for you and me on Twitter. Matias Almeida now speaking on TIC Sports Verano. Quote, "The soccer in the United States is underrated," end quote, is the caption right now as he speaks.
Hey.
Yeah, these are the important things. I mean, these are the very important things when you get a Matias Almeida, very respected person in Argentina, saying those things. Leandro Gonzalez Perez on TIC saying very complimentary things about MLS and playing in the United States. Right. Why do you think you're seeing a bunch of players, good players from Liga MX, come to MLS this year?
Right.
There's a lot of movement in MLS in terms of perception. It's changing very, very fast.
Right. If I'm a player agent and I'm sitting down with the team and they say, well, your kid, he's got a lot of talent, all this, you could say, well, let me talk about some of the ways I'm reducing risk for you here. What's the farthest you're going to be traveling? Well, we have a game in Moscow for Champions League. Okay, great. Excellent. By the way, my guy flew from Atlanta to L.A. and back in a 48-hour period.
And then played in Houston in the midweek.
Yeah, then we played in Houston, and then we played in Toronto. You're not going to be able to out-travel the teams in MLS. No. You're going to be in comparatively as large a crowds, 65,000. Maybe 60,000, I think, in Seattle. Mm-hmm. I mean, however low you want the bottom to be, if you want to talk about like Houston or Orlando or whatever. In the heat, you want to play in the cold. These players play in all of it. And if you're a European club, that's something that's very attractive because you have game tape on everything. You have the competitive balance. You have everything you want. And, John, I've been running my mouth for 20 minutes. Please, God, man, join in this conversation because I feel like I'm freezing you out.
No, you're not. I'm listening, but the analogy that kept popping into my head is current-day college football.
Yep. When
you're looking at student-athletes who are seniors in high school, mm-hmm. In the old days it used to be, we're going to go to a Power 5 school. We want to go to Alabama. We want to go to Ohio State. We want to go to Oklahoma. We want to do that kind of stuff. These days, you have just as many student-athletes who want to go to a Louisiana Lafayette, who want to go to a Miami of Ohio, who want to go to a Go-5 school. Why? Because you're playing now, and you get to showcase yourself from the absolute beginning as opposed to being behind someone in a situation where you are for 2 or 3 years. Right. Then you might have that 1 year of opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I'm viewing MLS almost as that group of 5 conference right now where you're seeing in the professional ranks and in the larger places, you're seeing kids who are playing now, doing well for 3 years, moving on, and getting that job in the NFL. So that was the comparison that popped into my head as you were trying to lay it out.
Right.
And I think if you had a smaller number of elite schools, that would work. Because I look at the average attendances in the Americas. Atlanta United was second.
Yep.
Right behind Flamingo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, ahead of River, ahead of Boca, ahead of Tigres, ahead of Rayados, ahead of Seattle, ahead of Talleres, ahead of Fortaleza, ahead of Corinthians. Second. I think in terms of the Americas, MLS is right there with all of them. Brazil's probably a step ahead. Right. Boca, River, in terms of quality, are a little bit ahead. But outside of that, Monterrey, Tigres, Club America are right there. Your best MLS teams are in that conversation. Mm-hmm. I think it's a very small number of elite that MLS is trying to get to. I think the France comparison is where you want to get. I think that's where you want to get quick.
Right.
And that's why this is an interesting spot, because I think MLS has jumped into the conversation with leagues that are historically known for developing talent and being a place that you want to go buy in. Mm-hmm. Portugal, the Netherlands, Belgium. You don't have to go there anymore if you're a kid from Argentina, if you're a kid from Ecuador, if you're a kid from Paraguay. It's probably a lot easier culturally to come to the United States.
Yes.
Now you've seen players from your country come here and succeed and move on and make more money than they ever dreamed of. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go play in – because most of these players are not going to go to Ajax. Most of them are not going to go to Sporting or to Anderlecht. They're going to go to a lesser team in those countries and play in front of 7,000, 8,000 people in a stadium that's probably 50, 60, 70 years old.
Yep.
Do you want to go there? Do you want to play at Mercedes-Benz? Do you want to play at CenturyLink? Do you want to play even in the smaller venues at a new stadium like Children's Mercy in Kansas City? Do you want to play in a new stadium like what Miami's going to end up doing eventually, possibly someday? Do you want to play in a place like Orlando?
Not the artist rendering?
It'll happen eventually, someday, possibly. But do you want to play in a place like that, or do you want to play in an old stadium in front of a small crowd? You're going to pick the new sexy thing every time.
Mm-hmm. What else is on the notes that are?
Well, I think that's it, because we went past the 8-ish. That's why I said
that's
ish.
true. We're in 8-ish.
Yeah, I've got to get this kid home before he turns into a pumpkin.
But that's no good.
But yeah, it's just something when and the only reason I wanted to discuss like a transfer 101 tonight is because when I get on social media, and it's not just from the Atlanta United side, I see a lot of fans of clubs out there, and they are all saying like, what's Cincinnati going to do? Is the transfer window already a failure for Minnesota? DC's going to do something. I mean, DC's talking about bringing in a player
DC's
who
about to spend wild money. It seems like.
Yeah,
I mean, we were talking wild money this morning for
right.
DC when they were talking about Brian Lozano and Edison Flores. Then this afternoon, Luka Modric.
Yeah. It's something whenever I see it's typically coming from two avenues. Either people who have been fans for a long time, but they're fans of like the top four, the traditional top four in England, or they're a Barcelona fan, and why can't we re-sign this guy? Because it's one thing to claim to be a fan of a selling club. It's another thing to live it and to have them in your backyard moving out. It's just a different thing entirely. And so it's something when it's the 6th of January, it's okay to dial it down and just be excited and enjoy the stupidity for a little while. It's silly season. Let it be silly and just enjoy it. It's going to be okay. I promise. Like if you get to like January 30th.
Then.
I mean,
remember Joseph?
Well, he was early February.
I'm talking about like if you are trying to make a move like this happen, you are 100% correct. I'm just saying, don't sweat. It's going to be all right.
Yeah, the MLS window, and this is something that some people might not know, like the MLS window doesn't end when the England window ends. Right. It doesn't end when the major European windows end. It runs through early May.
Yeah,
that's why you added Justin Merrim in May last year.
And remember the contract type that was Joseph Martinez. It was a loan with an option to buy, right? So that seemed to have worked out pretty well for Atlanta. And if you're looking for, like, if you have to have the full-on transfer, and you want to start sweating on the 30th, by all means, have at it. But there's loan with option to buy, loan with obligation to buy. There are ways to move players around. The transfer window is called silly season for a reason. Slapping the table for emphasis.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes players are said to be coming here and close to be signed, and it's actually a different player from that team. That happens.
Yeah.
Like yesterday.
Yeah, like yesterday.
And we'll see if that one gets done. And by all accounts, it will. But also by all accounts, the other one was going to get done first. Yeah. And I don't know what's going on with that anymore. So,
and
welcome to silly season.
Yeah, and if
they both might get done, and neither one might get done.
And just because one player's coming in doesn't mean your particular favorite player is going out. And if it does, trust the process. There's reasons that some you may know, some you may not. Just trust the process and let it play out. Vent all you want. My favorite player was LGP. My kid has walked out with him, and he walked out with Pity as well. Lucky, right? My gosh. But the first player he walked out with was LGP. And LGP, by all accounts, was very friendly. Was super kind to my son. Instantly, as someone who loves defenders, I just have to say, LGP was my favorite. He had some moments last season that kind of made my head spin. Mm-hmm. But I have to accept the fact that my favorite player is gone, and we got a profit out of the deal, so the club won.
We think. We're waiting on final announcements.
We're waiting on final announcements.
Yeah. But that's another one. I mean,
if it's Gressel, I mean,
it's not a. With one, the CBA is a huge factor in him And two, you've got to figure out that next deal because a player like that who has outperformed their rookie deal and is in demand, you're going to have teams that if you don't want to pay whatever the asking price is, you're going to have somebody who will. And sometimes you got to make that decision that, you know what, it's worth it to make the trade and do it and not sign the player to a deal that we weren't 100% comfortable with. Or you might be able to negotiate a price that makes sense. That's the thing, is there's so much unknown that I think getting angry because a deal hasn't been signed is unfair at this point. And that's where a lot of the conversation has gone. It's turned to anger, and you haven't even gotten to day one of preseason yet.
I would like to welcome everybody to the life experiences. This is like a virtual reality experience of being an Alabama fan.
VR Bammer.
Where it's like, hey, wait, hold on, you guys lost to hold up, what do you mean we lost to LSU? Hold up, fire Saban. Fire him right now. Like, wait, hold up. How many titles have you guys won? No, fire everybody. No, like, wait, what are you?
Funny because it's true.
Right, like, what in God's name are you talking about? It's something where it's the 6th of January when they haven't even announced that they've reached a deal on the collective bargaining agreement yet, right? So let's get the collective bargaining agreement done. Let's get through January, and then maybe even a little bit of February where we have the loans and all.
You got a lot of stuff to sort out.
Why are they being so quiet about the CBA?
They always are. Has a
They're
CBA
not
ever been
public.
done before it expired?
And if
Probably not.
I'll say this: anytime that there have been people vocal about a CBA this close to deadline, it has not been good. I go back to Major League Baseball.
I disagree on
NBA.
that. I think in MLS, it's a different kind of CBA. I think it's a different conversation because I think the players realize going on strike is the absolute last resort that they want to do. It's different than the other leagues where those leagues aren't going out of business, even though I think the National Hockey League was extremely damaged by their last one. But they're still in business, and they're still doing just fine. They've just been passed by MLS in a lot of markets. MLS is too young to have that hit right now. I think the players understand that.
But it's also, I think, to challenge you on one part of it, I think a lot of the players also see the difference between some of the guaranteed contracts that have come through for other leagues and the way that the NFL handles contracts, and you don't want to – this is sort of one of those things where you can have labor harmony and you can make it work and you can get some of the stuff you want, the give and take. With the ideal scenario, obviously you don't want to have a work stoppage, but I think there's some players who want to make sure that they don't go down the NFL route when it comes to how they handle contracts.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to. I think the worldwide market but it's a worldwide market, and MLS can't define the worldwide market.
There's a lot of NFL owners coming in.
But they can't define it. That's the thing. It's like they can try to do that, but they can't. Like you
The
literally
try is the
can't.
concerning part.
But you can't. Like
I agree with
you.
you.
You can't with transfers. You can't with FIFA. There's so many things that you can't do.
Right.
And I think the conversation for this one is going to be more about, because this is just going from what players have said and the chatter that we are hearing, is that it's not even about how much more money you're going to spend on the players. I think the owners are ready to spend more money. I think there's a huge number of owners who want to spend more money. I think that part's fine. It's about the other types of spending. How much further do you want to go? And what's the limit? What's the line? You know, are you going to do charter flights across the board? Is the league going to pay for charter flights? Are you going to have that as a collective, agreement with all your owners to put into a charter flight kitty? I don't know. All those kinds of things, free agency, what that looks like, all these different elements to it. I don't think it's just about spending like it is in other leagues as much. I don't think it's just about I want my part of the pie and that's it.
Right.
I think it's a deeper conversation, but a more manageable conversation. And I think what the league and the players have to think about this and I think the language has been along these lines, is as a partnership. Because so many of these players are, getting a chance to have a career in a sport that, they didn't really grow up with that possibility. And they're able to change that for the next generation. I don't think they want to jeopardize that. But you also, and this is where it gets complicated for an MLS CBA, is you have a lot of international players who have no concept of what a CBA is and how these things go, and they just want to play. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think the strike option is very minimal here, because they just want to play, and they know it's a small career, and they know they don't have many, they don't have a lot of leeway.
I think that the negotiations, because I haven't heard that much, I want to say I believe the negotiations are going well. I'm just saying that I remember the NFL
I think they're going about as you would expect.
The NBA strikes where they were vocal. The player side especially were vocal about where things were. And I'm feeling good about this.
Who's got the leverage in the NFL, and I think in the NBA especially more now? Players.
Well, the players do, yeah.
The players have all the leverage. In MLS, they don't.
That's the one thing that concerns me about the NFL money coming in is not all the owners. I don't believe Arthur Blank will be that way, but I do believe there may be some owners, the Haslams, who maybe want to have a bit more tug on the expenses. That's all I'm throwing out there. I'll leave it at that. I know we're way over time.
I don't think that's the case, because when you look at what the Haslams have spent on the Browns and you compare spending more money on the crew, it's a drop in the bucket. And you build that new stadium in downtown Columbus. It looks great. Yeah. You're going to start actually making money out of that. And I think the eye-opener is what Atlanta did with Miguel Almiron. I think that's the eye-opener for these owners to say, wait a minute.
We can do that?
So in the NFL, I sign a guy, and I've got to pay a crazy amount of money, and then I'm stuck. But in this league, I can sign a young player, and instead of just trading them for draft picks or trying to trade them for something else or get stuck of letting them walk in free agency, I can actually sell them and make money to another league?
Yeah. Right.
What?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's the eye-opener, and that's where you're going to get these owners to come in and say, well, wait a minute. We don't want to affect that. We want to enhance that. And what do we have to do to make that happen? And if you're the players, I think your argument is spend more money so you have better competition.
Right.
Treat the players better. Amenities, all those kinds of things, make it better so the competition is as strong as it can possibly be. So then you can sell players and move on and make money and develop the next generation of talent.
Right, I'm with you on that.
I think it's going to be okay, but it's going to go down to the wire like it always does. That's how any negotiation is.
Yeah, I think it's going to go well. Like I said, I think my concerns are my concerns, and they may not be shared, and that's fine. But
it's all right. I think you're wrong. It's okay.
It's okay. All right, Jason. Have a conversation.
We're past 8-ish. Things get a little feisty after that.
That's right. Things get a little spicy. All right. So with that, let's. I refuse to take the L on this, by the way, but I'm going to close the show so that way I'm not going to admit anything. All right. So 8:19. We are over. We are in over stoppage time. We're past penalties at this
extra
point.
Time, added time.
We're beyond all of that. So thank you so much for joining us for a wonderful show, John. Anything from you, sir?
9,712 televisions. Is that accurate?
I thought I got to 9,800.
Okay, so 9,800 TVs here at the Brewhouse Cafe. As always, tremendous hosts for us on a Monday. Come out and hang out with us. As folks have tonight, we have a studio audience tonight.
Woo!
See? We have a studio audience tonight. 6-ish to 8-ish.
Yep.
On Mondays, soccer over there. We'll be back at it first thing in the morning with soccer down here, 9 a.m. to 11 Eastern Time. And what am I missing on the promotional element?
We will be hanging out at the Brewhouse a little bit more in 2020.
That is true, yes.
We will be, and you guys who are listening to this either live or on demand or hearing this first, we will be doing shows here at the Brewhouse, 7 o'clock, the night before every Atlanta United home game. We'll be doing a preview show to be named. If you have suggestions, go ahead and tweet them at us, at Soccer Down Here, at Sock Over There, at all of us, at Nick Alifi, at OSG Nelson, at Longshoe. And we'll be having this show here at the night before every home game. We're going to start it with CONCACAF, with Motagua. And we're going to try to grow this thing into a big deal. We're going to try to have some giveaways. We're going to try to have some special guests with teams in town. We're working on things.
Am I eligible for giveaways?
No, you're not.
Oh, God.
No, not at all. No giveaways for you.
Because you get stuff given to you anyway, before the giveaways.
You don't get these giveaways.
This is America, John.
These are for the people.
I want more, John. This is the freedom-loving American. I want more.
No, these are for the people.
Okay, fine.
So, and we can announce the special co-host to that.
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
It's going to be Kelly Francis.
Ooh, there we go. Welcome to the party.
Kelly Francis.
The Kelly Francis. I'm thrilled with this.
That show will be hosted by John and Kelly, and we will have guests covering Atlanta United and the opposing team. Hopefully we will be able to get some broadcast personnel from other teams, maybe some national broadcast personnel when they're in town. Oh. It's going to be a fun show every night before an Atlanta United home game.
That's right.
So for the visiting team, when they fly in early enough, they want to come and have dinner here with the 9800 TV.
No, not the visiting team. They're not coming to hang out at the Brewhouse. They got other things to do that night. Talking about people who aren't going to play and run around.
Magic City. What?
No, hey, the Buckhead flu's a thing.
That's right. That's right. Well, we have, like we said, we keep talking about it. We're finally putting it all out there. We're going to be having more video content coming out. We're going to be having more live shows.
Yep.
We're going to be having giveaways.
Yep.
We're going to have.
We cannot have.
We have stuff which I can't have. I'm very angry about this.
Yep.
We have scarves.
Yep.
We have shirts. We have mugs.
Yep.
We have hoodies. We have everything. Guys, we're taking this to a whole new level, and we can only expand as much as you want to get involved, all right? So if you want to get involved, make this happen.
Get involved.
We are so happy to have you, but until then, thank you so much for listening. Mucha, mucha euro y'all.
All the lira.